So we're here at Summer Bay Golf Course at the Academy Zone with Tim Lobb from Lobb and Partners. And Tim is one of the golf course architects of this magnificent practice area. Thanks, Tim. And I just wanted to start off by asking you to give us a brief overview of how this project started and what it's all about.
Yeah, great question. So yeah, we're down in Hurghada on the Red Sea, and I'd been working in Egypt for about 20 years, designing a few golf courses up in Cairo, around Cairo, and I was commissioned to design a second golf course here at Summer Bay, which is really exciting. And then a few years ago, the client asked us to have a look at the practice facilities and if we could upgrade, and I immediately thought of James Edwards and EDI and asked them to collaborate with us and come up with a new innovative practice solution to this area. It's a big space, but it really wasn't functioning very well. So James and I put together this design and this concept of creating a really special environment for practice.
It is really special, and it's got so many different aspects of your game which you can focus on over such a big space. So you have the range, which obviously is a great place to get started with your long game. You've got this amazing short game facility, the scoring arena, which helps shave off those shots and really get into nitty-gritty of practice. But what is the ideal sort of end use of the space, and who would you say you targeted?
Well, I think you hit the spot there. I mean, we're trying to target everyone, and it's very hard to target everyone. But we've got very sort of defined areas for I'll say elite practice for the very top level of golfers, but also for the pros bringing their students and trying to practice all shots, not just short game, long game. Medium game and everything, and also the psychology of it all back in the Academy building. And one of the exciting things about this, and we talked about it, was we've got that ability to switch on daytime, nighttime. So what we've tried to do is in the daytime to create very serious practice, and then at the nighttime switch on a bit of fun. Music comes on, the way that the facility's set up is different. And it's more fun, interactive, laughs, barefoot, whatever you want, a few beers maybe.
So not only is it all year round practice, but it's almost 24/7 practice here too, because you've got the flood-lit practice zones on the range and out here as well. I know you're building a bit of more of a bar facility as well, and rest area, as well as the kind of clubhouse here. So you've got everything that you need at your disposal.
Yeah, hopefully golf is cool now, so people want to hang out around the
here.
golf course and spend their social time there as well.
It is cool, and I've enjoyed all my time here so far and wish that I could stay and practice more. But here we are now with James Edwards, who is from EDI Golf, the partner on this Academy Golf Zone at Summer Bay Golf. James is an expert in the Academy design, which is what makes this area so special. So, James, thank you again for having a quick chat with me.
Thank you, Caroline.
I'm excited to get into the nitty-gritty of the design on this place. But first of all, just tell me and everyone about the kind of broader design of the whole facility.
Thank you, yeah. So we had a relatively flat parcel of sand. When I say relatively flat, it was flat. You can see the sea over there, and then you can see the hills in the background. Between there and there, it was deadpan flat. So what we decided to do, Tim and I, was we decided to create a high point, and that high point is fundamentally a pyramid, which I apologise to everyone around Egypt potentially, but we wanted to create a pyramid, but that pyramid actually had a fundamental reason for being high, and the reason why we wanted it high is so that it could protect future users from being in the wind, because we have a very strong wind here in this part of the world. Which is brilliant for the water sports, but for golf clearly it needed a bit of shelter. So fundamentally that's where Tim and I started. We started from that moment, and then from that you create your zones, which is your protection or protected areas. So that was the major, the actual design. It's 40 acres. And from that 40 acres we wanted to then rotate around the facility through that central hub. So that's the main philosophy behind the 40 acres.
So you've got the central hub at the centre of this pyramid here in Egypt.
Yes.
And what are those 4 main zones that you've got here?
So the short game is made up of many aspects. I'm very, well, I find this, well, I take it extremely personal actually in what I do, because I believe personally that the short game consists of anything with a wedge. It's kind of general to say that, but that's where I believe. So each facility around here is associated with the short game. So we wanted a par 3 course, but not a course where you can ultimately use it as a course wholesale. We wanted to turn that also into a training facility to match the other areas which we'll talk about in a minute. But if you take the 9 holes, traditional 9 holes, many people have covered that the world over. We've all played them. They're great, and I think there's some brilliant examples, particularly in the States. But the reason why this is different is we have fairways. Now, most par 3 courses don't have fairways. They have waste areas, and these waste areas are clearly to make the hole look dramatic. One shot, beautiful holes. Now, we don't want one shot holes. We want multi-shot holes. And that's not variety of tee, that's length of shot. Because if we have 80 yards, for instance, of fairway, we have potentially 8 different potential yardages into each green. So if I want to come out and work on my 40-yard shots, I've got 9 holes to work on a real environment.
I see. Amazing. And I can actually see it now, where you have your markers of your distances on that par 3 course. So you've got the par 3 course where you can practice your various different shots, but also as a newcomer to golf, you have an amazing bite-sized golf course out there to practice on.
We do.
You have the area that we're stood on right now, which is the scoring arena, and that is focused on, again, shorter shots.
So again, we started talking about the longer part of the short game, which is clearly wedges and that type of shot. Then we've now got the pitching and the chipping zones. You could argue that we've also got a mix of pitching, obviously, on the par 3 because we've got these different distances. But coming to this area, we wanted to create a facility where clearly it's a chipping zone, but there's more to it than that. If I want to open my shoulders up and hit a 40-yard shot, we wanted to cover that. And that's what makes this different. I think you alluded to it earlier. We wanted the surround to be much bigger than the green. Now, in traditional short game architecture, you have a green that's normally dominant for a short game. It's not the green you need to be dominant on. It's actually the surround needs to be the feature of a short game area, because it's clearly you chip from a surround. You don't chip from a green.
They're the different shots you need to practice where
it
ball
sounds
is
simple.
around the green.
It sounds really simple, but I've been around the world, fortunately, to look at many of the best, and people don't understand that you have to give at least 40 yards, because it's a great debate, this, and any pro that may be watching this, you know, I always make this point of where does a pitch turn into a chip or a chip turns into a pitch. And so I come up with a distance where I think if you're turning and you're hinging, then at that point clearly it turns into a pitch, whereas a chip is supposed to be one piece. So you could argue that you can chip a ball 30 yards maybe. So that's why every zone has up to 30 yards. We've tried to get 30 yards in most places, but clearly we didn't quite get it in some of the pockets. But that's what you're trying to do, is create a chipping environment. But if I then want to pitch, I can then turn to a different angle and hit that 40-yard shot. So we have a particular angle, which I won't tell you to turn around here, where you've got at least 50, 60 yards. You don't necessarily want to hit that, but you have the opportunity.
Amazing. So in the scoring arena, we've got a few different areas where you can practice different shots. Talk me through the key highlights of what we've got here.
So thank you. We're on zone 8, I believe, on our plan. Not that that's relevant, because you can start anywhere around the 360 degree. That's what makes it, again, a special environment. But this is an interesting feature where Tim and I created almost a 60-metre curve of different level. So we called it the fan area. Again, I apologise to that for the general nature of that title, but it explains exactly what we're trying to do, which is where we're currently standing here, Caroline. We've got maybe a minus 60 shot into a very sort of simple pin location, and we wanted there only to be one flag, so because we don't want to complicate this process of having multiple flags. One flag, and we want to be able to rotate around all 60 meters of this at different levels. So we're at minus 60 now. If you walk up a little bit here, you can clearly see we've walked up a tier now. We're on to a negative 30, and we have like a piece of coral here which sort of differentiates where we're going to hit from, and you can move this coral to any distance. So now we're minus 30, and we have a zone of maybe 30 meters, 25 meters. And you can see what we're going to do. Then we can walk up another tier, and this should relatively be flat to that pin location now. So
Yeah,
automatically
I
now,
see.
in the space of 20 meters, we've gained 3 different types of shots which we all encounter.
Yeah.
But for a pro, the reason why that's relevant to a pro, in my opinion, they can teach the different shot types very simply in one zone for a very simple pitch.
I see.
So what I've always found on my travels is you don't get this type of detail in a facility, mainly because we're not afforded the space.
Yeah.
But here, the company, Summer Bay, they gave us a very large space to develop these types of zones. Now, Tim and I worked really hard on making sure that we could give 6 different types of shot here in one zone.
And these zones can be hired out, right? By if you're coming as a coaching trip, you could actually hire this whole zone for an afternoon or an hour and really get nailed down into the nitty-gritty of all these different types of shots.
So this again, thank you. Yeah, this is the great aspect of this facility is we created the 360-degree nature, because clearly you're only going to be on this zone for, let's say, half an hour, maybe an hour if you really are a detailed professional or client.
Yeah.
But we don't think someone's going to necessarily stay here all day and chip balls and want to hire out just this zone. But what we do want is every half an hour there'll be some type of a move on sound from the bar.
Okay.
And it will be everybody can then rotate to the next section.
Okay, great.
So in theory we could have 27 different groups
Yeah.
playing this hole, which again is a nice thing for a pro. They can hire out the whole thing if they want.
Great.
Good luck. But
Intensive.
Exactly. but I would much prefer it to be maybe a 20 odd pros using it on a half-hour rotation.
Yeah, fantastic. So that is 27 different shots that you can practice on this facility over whatever period of time that you want, whether it's a whole week, come back every day, or just nail it out in one long day on this practice zone. There's plenty to do.
Yes.
Amazing.